Imagine this. The year is 2036, and time machines are invented. The government has selected you to time travel to 1975 on a top-secret mission to recover an old PC. This is the story of a man who claims to have done just that, a time-traveling internet legend named John Titor. Titor's claim to fame was a series of forum posts from 2000 to 2001 where he claimed to have been a time traveler from 2036. He answered hundreds of questions, predicted the future. He even shared images of his time machine. Then all of a sudden, he just disappeared. To this day, it's still debated whether or not Titor was a hoax, this being due to the fact that his story actually makes sense. Was this really a time traveler from 2036? If so, why was he making forum posts? Today we're going to get to the bottom of this, but before we get started, leave a like and comment where you'd like to time travel to and why. The year was 1998. The popular radio show Coast to Coast AM was one focused on conspiracy theories and the paranormal. The then host of the show, Art Bell, began his open timeline segment, a portion of the show where listeners could call in and share their eccentric stories and experiences. It was during this segment that Bell read a fax he had received from a listener, one claiming to have been a time traveler from the year 2036. Dear Art, I had to fax when I heard other time travelers calling in from any time past the year 2500 AD. Please, let me explain. Time travel was invented in 2034. Offshoots of certain successful fusion reactor research allowed scientists at CERN to produce the world's first successful contained singularity engine. 2 years later, on the Time Travel Institute forums, a user by the name of Time Traveler Zero created a post similar to that read by Art Bell in 1998. Greetings. I am a time traveler from the year 2036. I am on my way home after getting an IBM 5100 computer system from the year 1975. My time machine is a stationary mass temporal displacement unit manufactured by General Electric. I will be happy to post pictures of the unit. By 2001, this mystery man would migrate to the Art Bell forums, a place for Coast to Coast AM listeners to converse with one another. There he would go by the name of John Titor. Titor shared many predictions of the future and even hinted at his involvement in the prevention of Y2K, a rumored computer glitch that would supposedly cause all of technology to fail, effectively sending humanity back to the Stone Age. Of course, most of his predictions did not come to pass. He claimed that a second American Civil War would begin in 2004 and eventually consume the entire nation. It would be followed by a brief but intense World War III in 2015. The Civil War in the United States will start in 2004. I would describe it as having a Waco-type event every month that steadily gets worse. The conflict will consume everyone in the US by 2012 and end in 2015 with a very short World War III. I was born in 1998, so I do share some childhood memories with all of you. I remember going to Disney World at Christmas, and I remember going to the beach in Daytona. When the civil conflict started and got worse, people generally decided to either stay in the cities and lose most of their civil rights under the guise of security, or leave the cities for more isolated and rural areas. Our home was searched once, and the neighbor across the street was arrested for some unknown reason. That convinced my father to leave the city. From the age of 8 to 12, we lived away from the cities and spent most of our time in farm community with other families, avoiding conflict with the federal police and National Guard. By that time, it was pretty clear that we were not going back to what we had, and the division between the cities and the country was well defined. Outright open fighting was common by then, and I joined a shotgun infantry unit in 2011. The Civil War ended in 2015 when Russia attacked US cities. Although these events never happened, Titor did have a defense for his failed predictions, one that ties to the mechanics of time travel itself. According to Titor, time could be understood in terms of connected lines running parallel to one another. He references the Everett Wheeler model of quantum physics, better known as the many worlds interpretation, and for good reason. Many perceive time as a single continuous line consisting of past, present, and future. Therefore, if one alters the past, the future is affected. According to Titor, time travel is far more complicated. Instead of perceiving time as one continuous line, it should be perceived as multiple lines with each line containing its own world. Exactly the reason Titor mentions this many worlds interpretation. For example, consider that this timeline is Universe A. It's our world with our history as we know it. There was no Civil War in 2004, nor was there a World War III. John Titor is from a world we could call Universe B, a separate timeline containing an entirely separate but similar world to our own, though his world is slightly different. It's an Earth where there was a World War III. These two worlds, and I'm specifically referring to his and our own, belong to an infinite collection of other existing worlds, all contained in their own respective timelines. In essence, it's a multiverse full of infinite outcomes and possibilities. Titor's time machine was able to jump between these worlds. Therefore, any prediction Titor made could never be disproved because what didn't happen here did happen on another timeline. He also mentions that there are some outcomes from entering these new world lines. Number 1, you can meet yourself. He claimed he's met himself before. And number 2, because this is a new world line, you can alter history in this new universe. Some examples include subtle changes such as car models that don't exist, or books that come out late. This information fascinated the forum users, but the skeptics were relentless. Titor came off as a very ethical man, and because of this, forum users put his morality to the test. In multiple posts, Titor said what he wouldn't reveal about the future, including the exact dates of people's deaths or other disasters. Knowing this, skeptics attempted to exploit this fact by claiming that Titor had the moral obligation to prevent such disasters, knowing what he knew, and if he didn't, it would be due to the fact that he never knew to begin with. This was Titor's response. If the Egyptians knew the Red Sea was going to drown them, do you think they would have pursued Moses? If you could go back in time to 1941 and tell the radar operators to take a second look at the radar screen on December 7th, would you? Before you say yes and accept that parade in your honor down Main Street, perhaps you should go forward in time and see if the US still had the motivation to make the atomic bomb before Hitler did. Other skeptics attempted to find flaws in his story. As mentioned before, Titor's original mission was to recover an old PC, specifically an IBM 5100, but that single premise alone made little to no sense for some. Why would you want an IBM 5100? I can find them at auctions for next to nothing. Another user asked, I am very intrigued by your story, but some of the things don't make very much sense to me. This IBM 5100 computer you talk of having to go back in time to get is the first thing that does not make sense to me. What does the old 5100 computer do that computers of your time aren't able to do? Titor explained that the 5100 had a very simple and unique feature that IBM did not account. A feature that Titor claimed was not in IBM's best interest to advertise. At least that's what they felt. Titor mentioned that this IBM model had the ability to easily translate between old IBM code, APL, and BASIC. Just the machine they needed to debug computers on the brink of failure back in 2036. Without this feature, the last of the remaining technology would fail. But why was this a big deal? Remember, the feature was never advertised. Back in 1975, there were never leaks or public announcements stating that the hardware had these capabilities. Fast forward to the year 2000, and nobody still knew about this, as those who developed the computer, according to Titor, were told to keep their mouth shut. At first it didn't seem like a big deal. It was another claim with no backing. Until shortly after there was. One of the developers of the 5100 came out, and for the first time ever, he publicly confirmed this claim. This was huge in the John Titor story, as there was no way he could have known of this feature unless he worked on the computer himself, knew someone who worked on it, or he was actually from the future. On March 24th, 2001, Titor posted this final message. I will be leaving this world line shortly, and this will be my final post. There are only a handful of people who know exactly when I will be leaving, and I'm sure they will let you know when I'm gone. In the last few days, I have found your choice of topics quite interesting, and from an objective viewpoint, I think it collectively answers one of your own questions. If time travel is real, where are all the time travelers? But now I have an expanded explanation with 2 examples. A while ago, on one of the posts, I related an experience I had with my parents while we were driving down a highway. Every now and then we would pass someone who was in obvious distress with their vehicle. I was amazed that so many could pass them without stopping to help. Their explanation was fear. The risk of helping someone was too great, and with today's technology, they probably had a cell phone anyway. If they didn't, the walk to a gas station would be good for them and teach them a lesson for running out of gas. The other example is the plight of the homeless. When you pass them as individuals on the street, I see the way people selectively choose an alternate path to avoid them. Those 2 examples best define why time travelers do not show themselves. In trying to help you, we put ourselves at great risk, and there's really no point to it. Besides, I think the walk to the gas station will do you some good. But this final post was not the end of the John Titor story. In the years to come, his name would begin to spread and become a thing of controversy for some. A woman by the name of Pamela Moore claimed to message Titor privately. According to Moore, she had a detailed dream of a time traveler from 1998 and felt Titor was linked to her. Moore stated that he left her a secret song. Should Titor ever return, he would reference the song, allowing her to identify him. In 2016, she added that she had received a letter from Titor's mother, another from Titor himself, and a CD with songs she has yet to reveal. Moore's claims made her a crucial piece in many John Titor theories, but others speculate she was manipulated by exploiters looking to fan the flames in order to promote books on the time traveler. When she made her claim, the internet was saturated with Titor impersonators, hundreds of people claiming to be John Titor for the fame or other monetary gains. These claims were supported by another Titor link, a pioneer in alternate reality games named Joseph Matheny. Matheny claimed to be a consultant on what he referred to as the John Titor Project. Prior to Titor's inception, Matheny was working on Ong's Hat, an early ARG, when he was suddenly asked to join a literary experiment by people observing his work. It was during this project that he would collaborate with others to formulate a story in hopes of spawning the next big urban legend. His story made sense and filled in some of the holes, including Titor's knowledge of the IBM 5100 secret feature. He claimed it was an inside joke, as only he and the collaborators, all of whom had IT backgrounds, would know something like this. Matheny's claims are the most believable, but they remain unconfirmed. As of today, none of the supposed collaborators have stepped out to confirm his story. I went to the other people involved and said, "Let's come out and tell the truth." Nobody would. Thus ends the tale of the time traveler of 2036. Well, that's going to be it for today's video. Don't forget to leave a like. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, consider subscribing and clicking the bell icon for future videos. Thank you for watching. This has been Jonathan from Imagine This.